Hello and welcome each and every one to another Soul Vibes, and this time it's episode number 32. So we've been going at this with this for quite a while, and it's always a pleasure for me, Alexis Sersha, to be participating in this, to be the voice of this. But each one of us that are joining in, whether you're joining live or watching later, we're kind of enter this room, this wonderful, beautiful room with the round table. And at the round table, we sit because in these times, in these new times, it is not a time of hierarchies or better or worse or lower or higher. We are each one unique and equal and souled beings that come together each month for this particular live stream, for this particular webinar. And we sit and feel and discuss all things to do with soul. And soul, it's such a, as we each one of us know, it's such a nebulous, in some ways, the thing, if I can call it a thing. And I call it an it in a way to sort of portray not that it is not present, it is presence, but it is just, it's one of those things that is before we were a he or a she. It's an it. I kind of call it an it in a Slavic way, so to speak. Um, because if for those that know about Slavic languages, we tend to sort of call things, everything, it's gendered, it's either a he or a she, and some things are an it, not because it doesn't feel living or alive, but it just doesn't fit those preconceived ideas about a he and a she. For me personally, for me, Alexis, the soul is such a vast and flowing presence, always changing. It's not something that I can define in any way. And yet at the same time, it is incredibly personable. No, it's incredibly intimate. There are no barriers between it. And why it took so long, and it took so much clearing of me, the human part. So I had to, I spent years and years clearing and clearing. And it had to do with intimacy with soul, with my own self, because there were so many parts of me that were shrouded before, that I felt that I had to hide, that were hiding behind shame and guilt and all of these kind of things. And I've had to clear out those mantles, those veils, and and let go of them, so that my own self, my soul, actually wanted this intimacy, wanted to see all parts of me as they are, for it accepts itself, which I too am itself, a part of it. It accepts itself unconditionally in the wholeness. And so all of the parts that I as human deemed and judged as unlovable, as unacceptable, even things that, as a woman, like the rage and the anger and all of these kind of things that were coming up in this long process, in this long journey of awakening, of coming back to self, of coming back to wholeness. It accepted them unconditionally. And so the soul brings to the table, to this inner table, into the safe space that I've created on the inside of me, it brings things like the unconditional love. These are not human things. These are not human attributes on our own as an aspect, or as a facet. These are the things that the part of you that is soul, this presence brings. And so it was in this journey, it was for the first time that I've learned what things like unconditional love means, what it actually means, what things like resurrection mean, what bringing parts of myself back into life that were dead or that I tried to kill off because they were unacceptable to me. And this journey is not perhaps as intense for each and every one. For some it is, for some it isn't. For me it was, because my past, it's kind of like a trauma. It has trauma and all of these things. And it's not that these things define me, but I'm just saying that it doesn't matter what place you find yourself in. You are resurrected. You come back home. You come back to self. You come back into wholeness. And this wholeness means being naked in front of your own soul, being intimate with your own soul, so that there are no barriers, so that there are no mantles and veils in between. And this is an incredibly, yes, it's a challenging journey, and it's ongoing. It's like peeling all these onion peels, you come back, and hopefully you're not going in circles, because if you're going round and round in circles, then you're stuck in the same place. The idea is to come back. So to go out on a journey and come back with all of the experiences and integrations and things that you've experienced on that journey. So it's a spiral. So even though it feels like you've come back to the same place, you're actually just living a spiral. So you keep coming, and the spiral keeps expanding. For the soul, of course, its presence is vast. It lives outside of time and space. It is timeless. And so, as a human, there are a lot of different um, conditions and a lot of different parts that one has to get used to, that one has to um, mm, integrate and become okay with, to be in a relationship, because this is a relationship. It's an inner relationship, and even though it does go sometimes all into oneness, for me, that's how I experience it. And then I split, not a split in the old sense, as in like there's just this one side or the other side, but because it is a dance, it's a song, it is a relationship. So I come back into oneness and come back into the human, the soul self, and we dance and we sing, and I can hear this song of my soul. And the soul hears my own human song. And so we communicate, we dance, it's real. But at the same time, this presence, all of these experiences, because in many ways they are very fine, they are non-definable. You can't define these things. You can't define soul, for it is flowing, it's always changing. It is this vastness of things. As soon as you say a word about it to try and define it, it's already changed. But this is not so different really from life itself. For we think as humans, our brains are made, in such a way to filter out all the changeability, so that we can feel some stableness. Because when you look at it from even scientific point of view, when you look at the particles, the atoms, the quantum particles, and even just in general, like in nature, in weather, nothing stays the same second by second. It's already changed. Everything has changed. And so this is a normal part of life. But when we are focused just very narrowly in a human life, we don't actually notice these things as much. But the presence of soul, more and more of this presence within our lives, as we are allowing, as we're breathing with it, as it permeates us, the human self, then we become more and more aware of how things actually work, how life works, and the definitions might become much more loose. Because even scientifically, and these days, if you for those that look at science, For example, let's say quantum physics has been around for a long time, but now it's becoming much, much more focused because there actually are technologies that we're using today. Well, not in everyday use, but that are in labs and in all of these places that do work based on quantum science, quantum fields, meaning that there are no definitions, there are no predetermined things, like that, for example, light, particles of light are both at the same time in a state of a particle and in a state of a wave. And so we are now, even as humanity whole, coming into these much more deeper wisdom, much deeper wisdom, and also of an understanding of how life actually works. That even, for example, as I'm sitting on my chair, or perhaps if I was out in nature, I'm sitting on a rock. The rock is not fixed, it's not stable. It appears that way, but its atoms are vibrating, are moving, are filled with life, with energy. And so for those that are in spaces that have been doing this for a while, and that, like that there is energy that is yours outside, you can relate to much more to this. And those that have been practicing being co-creators of their own life, you can relate to this much more. And it's not that everyone has to know this from a scientific perspective, but for me, all of these fields have now come back together again into this oneness. I don't sort of, only for words and explanation that I use, either, it's a science, it's spirituality, is medical professions, is spiritual healing. These things for me are now meaningless. They've come together. And the same, for example, let's say, with all the other dualities, like, political left and right is meaningless to me now. I'm in my own center. Where does it say, well, even if people say, oh, you should be this or that? No, I don't. Um, so there are all of these kind of things that for me in the last few years have really come back into oneness of self, into not identifying just with this side or that side, but actually looking at things much more whole, and also from my own self-responsibility, from my own self-authority, from my own inner sovereign space, which means that I am the one that make a choice and decision as to what resonates with me and what doesn't. And so there isn't any group or any idea or any profession or anything that would wholly resonate with me at all. No. But certain things from all of these places do, and certain things don't. And even those certain things, I have to clean them and clear them to bring them into the purity of my own. What I mean is that in resonance of my own. So it's not that I'm making purity for everyone else, but it's like I'm bringing into my own field, so to speak, resonance, pure resonance that resonates with me. And I choose what resonates with me and what level of resonance is enough of this cleaning and clearing away of this distortion. And this is what sovereignty really means. These are the kind of things that there isn't any authority out there. And at the same time, there is this realization that other people, other beings, and I now put this much wider because life for me has become much wider than those small, limited uh, ideas of it. Like even within science, within humanity, now this idea of what life is that no one has actually been able to define it. So there isn't like, oh, this is life, this isn't life. And when you go into, as I said, quantum physics, it's even more impossible to find that exact moment when one can say, well, this is not alive and this is alive. And this has been a process. Like for me, it's been to realize, even when I was younger, to realize that yes, animals are sentient beings. They have feelings, they have wishes, desires. They're not dead things that can be used. And so the plants, the nature, it's all fully alive. Is it human? No, I'm human. But still I can recognize life in all these other beings. And soon and already for me, for some of us, we've realized that life is much broader than what I thought. What even from that, even in that sort of definition. And so these things are fine though. And this is mm, one of the issues of relating with soul, of practicing the communication, of understanding, of hanging out with this presence that is so fine, that is so undefiable, that is so flowy and changeable, and yet at the same time so recognizable once you know what you're looking for. Is that because it is so fine and so personal, and the experiences are so intimate and on the inside, that it's very easy, especially from the beginning, to continue to doubt, to continue to forget. Or that, oh, was this real or was I just imagining? Especially since being in the wider world, a lot of the things that people of presence speak about, or they say, wow, this is what I've experienced. You don't have normally from the beginning, especially, any tangible proof that, yes, this is what you have experienced. And yes, the soul is real. I mean, there are still huge parts of human circles that would laugh if you just even mention the word soul. So I asked them, why is it such a taboo to mention it if it's no big deal, Because if I say stone, if I say, I don't know, bulb, no one actually flies off the handle. If I say soul in this space, is everyone, "Oh, no, don't mention that word. Why? If it doesn't, it's nothing. So this is like an indication that there is something there, even in those people that deny it. But for me, it doesn't really matter. I'm not into this to try and convince. It's about everyone, everyone's their own self-responsibility. And yet for those that do, we do, as I said, we do get knocked off this. You can have these beautiful experiences, and you're so in tune, and you so feel this and feel that, and you feel the presence of your soul. And then you go out into work or job, or you go to the shop, and things happen, and the reality, so to speak, reality hits, and you're knocked off again out of this beautiful resonance, in a resonance that you feel. And so there are, there are initially quite a few challenges in this, because you not only that, but you have to keep coming back into that beautiful space. So initially, it's a lot of effort, because, like for example, for me, it meant that I would have to either, put headphones on with beautiful music, or go to nature and stuff. So I had to kind of go out of my everyday life to feel that fineness, to feel the presence. But once I really realized, once I had that aha moment, wow, this is my soul, then it's recognizable to me forever, but it's not always present from the beginning, but it is recognizable. And so next time I feel it, I know exactly what it is as soon as I start feeling that presence. And then as I keep coming back, because the soul is incredibly mesmerizing, and it feels like home. It feels, it's a belonging, it's home. You feel this incredible feelings that I've never before felt before, and that still I don't have words for. And so I would try and be in that space every moment that I could. But then, of course, the more I feel this presence, the more it stirs up all of the things that need to come back home. So it's quite a challenging time, that time. And yet, as you work and you work and you work with this and you keep coming back and you become wise and you become experienced and you find out, you realize your own talents in this. You get all of these different talents that also the soul brings. That's when you then realize, wow, I actually, I'm spending more and more time in this soulful place, soul-filled place. And then of course, one day the hump comes, like that Wednesday. If for people that don't know this term in English, the hump day. If you have a working day Monday to Friday, Wednesday's the hump day because you're like going up the hill, and you Wednesday, and then you're going down towards Friday. That's the hump day. So even in this soul connection, you come to a hump time, which means that from then on, it actually becomes easier and easier. And it also, like, the balance shifts. So instead of having to work hard to be in this soul-filled, present, conscious place, it becomes much more like a much more the place where you naturally inhabit most of the time. Maybe not at the beginning most of the time, but more and more time. And so then, then all of a sudden, this becomes your natural place, and you realize how easy it is to be here. It's natural, and how hard it was to be disconnected. There's a lot of work to be disconnected from your own soul, huge amount of work. But it is also work to be connected. It is just two different kinds of work. So when you're working to be disconnected, which is a very unconscious process, you keep putting those veils, you keep reinforcing, you keep undermining, you keep upholding patterns within yourself that keep you separate from your own self. And so then when you go over the hump, the work with your soul is a different kind of work. It is work where you actually then have to uphold and maintain strong, healthy boundaries, not made of stone, but very uncompromising boundaries. You work for your own well-being, which, in this world that we're in, well-being can be hard to find, and hard to sort of maintain. So slowly, that's why it's a whole process, because slowly but surely you change your life, you let go of things that are not important, and you bring in and you start doing things that are important to you. And so slowly but surely your life ends up as that of simplicity, but full on living. Simplicity and quietness are actually full on intense living, much more than the life of drama and the craziness of a disconnected person. So, but it's a very, very different basis of life. And this is why, people that do drugs and they do to try to sort of jump all this in between time, they, I mean, those things can help on a way if you're already doing the work, but they cannot bring one from a state of complete disconnection into this state of being filled with soul, because they haven't done the work in between. It's kind of like, let's say, if you have a child, a baby, and all of a sudden you could say, well, now you can walk. But they can't walk because their bones haven't got stronger, their muscles haven't practiced. walking, and so they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to hold balance. They haven't grown the neural connections within their brain, the changes in their DNA, the body changes, all of these things that this journey that takes sometimes frustratingly long from the human perspective, but it is needed so that you can, along the way, strengthen your muscles, grow strong bones, grow all these new extra neurons and all sorts of things in your brain, in your nervous system that can actually then support a soul, a presence of soul. And so in this process also, what once was so fine and intangible and hard to define also then becomes tangible, but not because all of a sudden the soul manifests outside of yourself and you see this being, not at all. It still stays even more fine. It's just that your senses attune. And it's like talk, like let's say if you become friends with someone, you develop your own language that you two can understand. You understand each other. You know how each other work. You get to know each other. It's a relationship. It's a dance. And so this is the same with your soul. And so it from what also then was not tangible, now all of a sudden you've collected along the way also a lot of tangible things. And tangible things are just simply you enjoying life, you being happy in yourself, you being having this well-being, this that's bubbling constantly, your life working, flowing, you feeling this incredible satisfaction with yourself, with acceptance, the forgiveness of all of these things. So these are the tangible mm, proofs of the soul presence that are real, that can be pointed to, that can be touched. And these are just the surface things, the traveling with soul. Now, I've been for quite a few years now, there's so many incredible experiences that are really just me with me, really. It's not even written anywhere. It's not even shared anywhere because a lot of it, majority of stuff is just me with me, soul with human with soul. Alexis is with my soul. And so but as I travel, then of course that dependence on the outside world, on approval of others, of having needing someone to confirm my own truth for me. It's lovely if they do. It's lovely if it's confirmed, but it's not. It's just an icing on the cake. Like it's not needed, and yet it is welcome because just because it's beautiful and it's gorgeous and it's this beautiful interaction with people, and so these are the kind of intangible experiences of life that are a gift at the same time. They are also a proof, and that proof of in my life that is the soul presence. Even if I didn't feel it, even if I didn't, because the soul presence, once you, even before, but once you've cleared out, it's never 100% clear, you know. And this is that BS, like a big something that stops you, a big problem. If you think something has to be 100%, it is 100%, but not in a way that the human mind thinks. So, but like just the presence itself is incredibly not only enjoyable, pleasurable, um, all sorts of words that I don't even have words for. But just the way then I do my life or I be in my life, mm, wouldn't even need any other proof, of this soul's presence. But yes, to get to this place, some parts of the journey were hellish. I often say this, it's walking on razor's edge. For those that don't know this English expression, razor's edge is like, let's say if you have a sword and you turn it up and you're walking on that really thin, sharp part, because there are so many distractions, there are so many pits that you can fall into from all sorts of different places and people and inner parts, that it's almost like a miracle, really, when I think that some of the things that I was able to walk through or walk on that razor's edge and I didn't fall into either side, into the pit where I could be stuck. Sometimes I did, but not for a long time and not very deep. And that meant that, that also along the way, the trust happened and trusting my skills, my perceptions, all of these things have exponentially increased within me, and they continue to as I live my life, as I experience things. And so, the life, a soul-filled life, is very, very different to anything that I could have predicted before it happened, before it naturally unfolded. It is not something that I could have predicted. And it is something that continually to surprise me on a daily basis. There isn't a day that I wouldn't be surprised, and not only with that, but just to see how things are connected, the patterns, how it all is working out, understanding and being able to see and hear how it's all working together, how nothing is separate, and then to have things confirmed with my own personal confirmations. So this is one of the things with your own soul. It's very personal. It's all about you. It talks the language that you understand. And so also, like when you start out, you can look at numbers, for example, and like if you see double numbers here and there, that for me was always a confirmation, not because numbers have power in themselves, also they also do, but because it was, me winking, my soul winking at me, yeah, this is the right confirmation. And the soul will use as it notices everything, but it notices you noticing things. That will encourage it to then continue to use this kind of signs, not to do things on your behalf as a human, because there are definitely defined things that a human has to do in this relationship, but it will always encourage and it will always give you these kind of signs, signs that mean something to you. So there comes a point where, for example, you can't anymore read uh, you know, books on what do dreams mean, what do certain colors mean, what does it mean if a butterfly pops up in my life in front of my eyes, or a dragonfly, because these things are then a personal language. I can't then go into a book. I can't, for interest's sake, to find out, okay, so these traditions have this or that meaning, they've attached this meaning to that, but it all becomes very, very personal. So for me, let's say if a dragonfly pops out or flies in my garden, that means something very personal to me, because dragonflies mean something personal, and all of the experiences I had with them are my own personal thing. So I know exactly what it means for me. It's not like I can go, okay, now let me go and consult a book as to what it means. This, yes, this is also a real and a valid stage on the path. And then comes a day, time, a week, a year when you realize that these things are no longer true. And so it goes for all things, most of the things, so it's not really possible to say for X to make statements for everyone at the same time, because what is true for someone where they are, it is truth for that person. If another person was doing that same things that this person is doing, but they actually were in another place and they try to escape and pretend that they're still here, then what they're doing, even though two people doing the same thing, it's not both true then. For one person, it's the truth. For the other person is escapism and a lie. And so these kind of real defined uh, platitudes or generalizations in this way no longer apply when you're when you cross certain places, when you cross certain thresholds. And so in this way, it all becomes much more intricate and simplicity, not simplistic. Simplistic and simplicity are two different things. Simplicity means that it's all flowing and working. And I'm back in the basics, meaning that I don't have to do any elaborate, complicated things to feel connected to my own self. So that simplicity, that I can just simply sit in my garden and under the sun, and that's the most richest experience that I can have. Not that I wouldn't do more, also other things, but I'm saying that there, I can't even say anymore, this is more pleasurable than that is more pleasurable. Being is pleasure itself. So whatever I'm doing is pleasure, not because that thing in doing is more pleasurable, but because I'm in doing it and enjoying it and experiencing it. So that's that simplicity, but at the same time, it is complexity because you are so fully alive and your senses are so fully alive and immediate and intense. And you can feel all these things that before I was blind to. And I can sense and I can smell and I can hear and all these other senses that again I don't have words for. And that's just looking on the outside. And then of course, I'm also looking on the inside. So there are all of these inner senses as well. And so that's the complexity. But the wonderful thing about it is that as it all becomes complex in this way, I also, my abilities to meet all of this, as I've also equally risen it to the same measure. And so I can always meet life in a new way because it keeps expanding. And I just have to, as a human, I just have to say yes and allow myself to rise to that new level. And then I meet it. And it is actually much easier than what I used to experience with these changes because um, I'm so used to it, but also because change is actually very pleasant now. So rising up and up to meet soul in a new way is extremely pleasant because I keep going to a more kinder space, more loving space, more respecting space. And so whatever that I do, it's not done or experienced in the same way that I used to in that harsh, much harsher ways. not that I don't feel and experience the harshness of mass consciousness, of, the collective. I've experienced it even more, but it is not central, and it also, I don't own it anymore. And the reason why I don't own what doesn't belong to me is not because I'm not part of humanity or collective consciousness on this earth, but it's because of that painstaking work that I've looked at everything and I've cleaned it for myself, and I owned what was mine, and I let go of what didn't belong to me. That's why I don't, when I say I don't own the darkness in the collective anymore, because I've taken mine, I've owned it, I've integrated it. And if there's still bits and pieces that I'm not aware of, they come into my awareness. I own it, I integrate it, I bring it home to light. And that's it. My part in that collective has been completed. And the rest, what is not mine, I place on whomever that belongs to. I no longer carry, because that for on behalf of others what belongs to them, because I realized and seen and experienced that that carrying just enables the same to just continue on and on. And these are not times to continue on and on the same, because it is only the person to whom that energy belongs to that can change it. Yes, I can stand and witness and assist, but if that person doesn't want to change it, then that thing won't be changed. And I'm not the one to carry it anymore. I play, to keep just put a band-aid on it, because I myself can't resolve it. So I place it. And as more and more collectively do that, we see that it's working, because, while people in the old days could get away with things because everyone just carried this collective responsibility of what they were doing, for example, it's not anymore. And once it's on them, they realize how uncomfortable it is. And then it's up to them to change it or live with that uncomfortable thing, while others who do work move on. And so it's a very, in this way, what maybe 20, 30 years ago, I would say, quite tough. Because in those years, many of us believed, oh, that is so kind and good to carry everyone's burdens. But, many decades later, we've realized that no, yes, it's kind to show the path and to assist on the path, but not to keep just doing the band-aid thing so that the person who's actually creating that pain can keep pretending they're not creating it. And so they never get better. And so these are some huge, huge life lessons and things that, well, I've learned and keep learning. But yeah, the soul book is the most incredible thing, thing, incredible experience. That yes, I wished for it, I desired it, but 30, 40 more years ago, even 10 years ago, I wouldn't have a clue as to what and how it's actually going to unfold. And so I can continue to say that, because what is going to be next year, I have no idea. But what I can say is that it's going to feel wonderful and it's going to be good. Why? Because I will be with my soul. And so even the decisions, you know, become in this way much easier. And that's another stressful thing that goes away because um, it's not like, oh, should I go left? Should I go right? Should I go straight? Should I turn all the way and go, 180 degree and go that way? Or it doesn't matter because as long as I'm whole, as long as I have my soul and my human self dancing, then whatever I'm going to do, it's going to turn out good. Have challenges for sure, stretch me for sure. So when I say, this good, it's a different kind of good than what the human mind used to um, imagine, that I don't know what I imagined, the happy ever after thing when nothing happens, everything's happened already, and then it's this happy ever after when it's just good. I don't know what that means. But it's soul, traveling with your own soul. It always stretches you. It always expands you. So you always have to rise up to the next thing, learn something new, and notice what you've been doing that perhaps wasn't in line with soul, with the real kindness, the heartfelt, with your authenticity, with all of these things, so we rise up to this, but it stretches us. Um, but it's exciting. There's no fear. There's no fear in this, and you continually become more and more courageous, and you continually trust, and you continually step and do another step and do another step. And it continually just turns out good, good in a way that is pleasurable. But along the way, I did stretch. Along the way, I did have to practice. Along the way, I did have to let go, to look at something, to feel anew, to question, to to open my eyes. And that is why it is so different now that I couldn't have imagined before, because every time that I open my eyes wider, I see more, so to speak. And so in the past, 20 years ago or even last week or whatever, I couldn't, because I didn't see that. So I couldn't have imagined. And I know that there is this feeling. So for example, I remember even in the childhood, I had this feeling to come home to myself. I didn't know at that time. Just I wanted to go home. That's what it felt like. So I had this trajectory, let's say, and I had this feeling that there will be something there, but I couldn't have imagined it as to what it really is. And what it really is also another thing that I couldn't have imagined, was just how physical it is, how practical, how everyday it is, how, it's not like mm, that, okay, I allowed my soul to imbue me, to fill me, and all of a sudden I will be transported into some kind of, I don't know, Hollywood style life to, let's say, 40 years ago, maybe that's what I imagined, success would be, or something like that, whatever one imagines, like the success would be like when I was a teenager. I wanted to be, a pop star or a film star and whatever, all that. So it's not actually, from that space, I would imagine, okay, so I feel soul, so all of a sudden my life is going to look like that. But it's actually those lives, not every life, because it depends. If it's a soul-filled life, it doesn't matter which field one is, because every field has soul-filled people. But just the life itself, to me, is completely empty now, because it's not in my trajectory or wish to actually experience that. But for someone it is. So again, it's not that you can't say blanket statement that, or because someone's a singer, they're not soul filled. No, you have to look at that person, individual. Some are, some aren't, as in every field. But what I'm sort of the point I'm making here is that the life, soul filled life actually enters, it seeps into your own life where you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, into your own everyday life, into whether you have family, whether you have children, partner, whether you're single, whether you're, a person, mature age, none of these things matter because none of it is either a benefit or like something to stop you from it, because the soul works with your life, whatever it is. And so for some people, it means that it's the children that bring, for example, their children bring that awareness and experiences for a soul-filled life. For some people, is that being single that does. So it doesn't really, there are so many these things that as humans we can get caught in and say, well, I can't because of this, I can't because of that. But it really is not true, it matters not whatever condition you are. Mm, Whether you, even if you are in, for example, for some people they may be in institutions, in a prison, and we know from historical records that, in history, people in prison, that's where they've experienced their enlightenment, because it is outside of any of the walls and rules of the everyday physicality that the soul exists. And yet, when you allow it to imbue your life, then it imbues everything, your walls, your chair, the tech, the lights, the whatever it is that I'm participating in. If I'm present with it, allow my soul to be present with it, then that thing is imbued with soul. So it is this being staying in this presence that it's what matters really, and then the rest is, yes, just cakes and wine and whatever have you, all of these things, just enjoyment of life, whatever that is for each and every one of us. And so, yeah, I do invite everyone, whether again you're joining live or watching this later, join us. When I say join us, join yourself in allowing more and more of this soul presence to be present in your own life. And so, dear friends, my name is Alexis Sersha, and I am wishing you all the wonderful things. And until next time, and so it is. Thank you. Namaste.